Hey everyone, as you know that Goji Center recently announced the Great Hybrid Wars where they presented their hybrid Indom 2.0, great hybrid by the way, and challenged everyone to make their own hybrids. So with my limited knowledge and my even more limited video editing skills, I thought I would take a glance at it. And this is to show you guys off what I came up with. And if someone from Goji Center wants a more detailed like description of this thing, maybe a few more inspirations and all that, they can come to my channel and find this video. So there's that aspect of it as well. So before I tell anything about my hybrid or anything else, I would like to put a disclaimer to make some things clear. So the first thing is this creature is made with DNA from only real life animals. No fictional creatures, aliens, kaijus, whatever, none of that. Any resemblance to any kaijus here is purely aesthetic. That thing doesn't have the powers of the kaiju because this looks very much like a certain kaiju that is very popular. You will see in a bit why I put this disclaimer in. Secondly is I can't draw for shit, so I'm not very good at it, so I just decided to use an AI generated image to describe my hybrid. And if any of you guys want to draw this thing with me, feel free to let me know. I will be happy to let you have a try at it. And I already submitted it during the submission period, so you guys will get to see, like, guys from Goji Center, you guys probably already have this hybrid in there. And yeah, so let's go through some of the history first of this hybrid war. So as we know, the Great Hybrid War started when the hybrid from Goji guy, Hank, challenged Indom 2.0, lost pretty badly due to its own flaws, and then there was a spiral that went uphill, I would say, and people started making awesome hybrids. Like, my personal favorite so far is the one made by Madly Mesozoic, Samson. It's my favorite one so far. So the hybrid I am making, the goal here is to not only create a creature to kill Indom 2.0, but also a few other creatures as well. Some of which are obviously Samson or Decayatherium from Madly Mesozoic, Vex. I think Vex is made by Goji Guy again, and obviously two more creatures which are not really hybrids but also made by Goji Center, and since they share several attributes with my hybrid, I decided why not have a speculative battle about them in the end. But before that, we will have to discuss how our hybrid is gonna fight Indom 2.0. That's the main focus, but later on I will explain how it will fare up against other hybrids. So a lot of people have taken a lot of different approaches when it comes to making hybrids. People like Goji Guy decided to go for a large carnivore. People like Madly Mesozoic went for a large tanky herbivore, and I decided it will be best to do none of that. Some people even went for like birds, bugs. That's also not my forte. So I decided to do something else entirely. And while looking for inspiration, I thought, how did Indominus 1 died? Really? So with that in mind, I decided, oh, so it was a semi-aquatic or aquatic creature that came out and killed Indominus Rex. Let's start from there. But there's a problem here. Goji Center said in their rules that the battle will be taking place on land. So I can't make a Mosasaurus hybrid because, well, it is gonna be beached on land and Indom 2.0 is just gonna stab it from the sides. So we got to have a semi-aquatic. Now, what is the most powerful semi-aquatic creature we can find? How about, oh, would you look at that? Deinosuchus. Yeah, it is I mean, if we are talking about powerful semi-aquatic creatures, crocodilians will come on top, and which one to pick better than the biggest one of them all, Deinosuchus. This thing was a monster on its own right, okay? Like, this thing, at the largest size, this thing could grow up to 50 feet and like 15 tons. Twice as much as Indom 2.0. And to be honest, if this thing could ambush from water, like it could like lunge out of the water and grab something and then drag it back, it could kill Indom 2.0 just by this. It will just grab Indom 2.0. It's twice as heavy as Indom 2.0. Just grab it, drag it to the bottom of the water and just drown it there. Not much of a problem. So let's start from there. This is a good start in my opinion. And so what we are taking from Deinosuchus is the overall body shape. Obviously the base template will be this. This will also give us certain other benefits that will help us with the Indominus plague later on. But for now, let's do that. Head, obviously, the extremely powerful jaws, the very peg-like teeth. That would include the replacement teeth as well, like when crocodiles have their teeth fallen off, they get replaced. Eyesight, a lot of people don't know, crocodiles and in general crocodilians have incredible eyesight. Like their eyesight is comparable to birds of prey. So definitely that's going to be useful. And obviously the pressure sensors that they use to detect their prey in the water, though in this particular fight I don't think pressure sensors will be that much useful, because once again, at least these type of pressure sensors won't be that much useful because these are mainly for detecting things in the water, and this fight takes place on land. So what else do we have here? We can also take the osteoderms, which are these thick bony scutes on the back of the Deinosuchus, as you can see, pretty nice looking. So those things, we can also take those will be helpful. And tail muscles, of course, our creature needs a powerful tail in case it gets to lunge, though I don't think it will be able to lunge in dry land, but let's still give it a strong tail for some other purposes we will reveal later on. And obviously fat storage, which will also come into play when I tell you what else am I adding. So this is what our creature is so far. It will mainly be a modified Deinosuchus with other features in. And this image, this flexibility of a crocodile, this will also come into play later on in the situation. So with that out of the way, our Deinosuchus already is pretty powerful looking. Let's move on to the next creature. Let's see what we have. Oh, let's make our creature even more buff. You know, like as if Deinosuchus at 15 tons wasn't big enough. Let's make him even bigger. So I decided to take Ostcolossus. Now Ostcolossus is arguably one of the biggest reptiles of all time, closer in size to blue whale actually, though not as wide, but it's still debatable. It's a giant ichthyosaurus. I believe it is called Ichthyotitan severamensis, though it's debated still. But either way, this is one of the biggest reptiles of all time. And what does this thing contribute? Well, this thing contributes size boost. Now I have to clarify this. Our creature isn't as big as Ostcolossus, because then it won't be able to walk on land. It's about yay big, about this size big. It's the Ostcolossus here is like 36.96 meters. Our creature is closer to 25 meters. It's still a very big creature, but we don't want it to be that big, blue whale sized at that point. It cannot walk on land anymore. So that's one thing we got from Ostcolossus. Secondly, we got the tail fluke and tail muscle enhancements. So as we know, Ostcolossus was a very powerful swimmer. So it will be enhancing the tail muscles even further. And apart from that, it will also give it a tail fluke, which won't be that relevant in this particular fight, like against Indom 2.0, but will be relevant if it is fighting something in the water. So there's that. Obviously, with the size increase, all the things will increase. Now, just from this alone, a crocodile that is closer in size to this giant ichthyosaur, just from that, it is extremely overpowered. Like Indominus's powerful claws and teeth, like iron coated teeth, won't be doing much already. Like the osteoderms are gonna be so thick due to the size increase of these things that Indominus's claws won't be able to scratch those. Like, yes, I know that iron can cut bone, but the iron is not thick enough to cut the bones. Like, could you imagine the osteoderm width on these things? The width of these osteoderms will be enough to stop and wedge the Indominus's claws and teeth into them instead of just cutting into flesh. It will be like trying to cut a wooden board with a razor blade. Now it's sharp, but again, if you never tried cutting a wooden board with a razor blade, try it, man. You will see why it is so difficult, despite the fact that steel cuts wood. Now, since our creature needs to walk on land, I thought of adding at least one land animal, which doesn't contribute all that much, but I feel like it contributes just enough for our creature to be a little bit more land-based, which is Shunosaurus, not to be confused with Shonisaurus, which is the large ichthyosaur. This is a small sauropod, and the reason I added it is mainly for the leg bones. It enhances the tail further. Don't worry, we don't have the tail club from this thing. We don't have a tail club, but this enhances the tail swinging motion. It makes the tail, it gives it the right tail vertebrae to, so that it can swing properly. So it makes the tail a bit more flexible, and it gives it the more powerful leg bones. Essentially, it enhances the leg bones of the crocodile. Already, crocodile legs, despite being small, are really, really powerful, but these things will make their legs even more powerful. Now, I know that Deinosuchus isn't a crocodile really, but I might mispronounce it quite a few times here about crocodile, alligator. It's big armored lizard thing that lives in the water, okay? I cannot be that pedantic right now. So that is the main thing it contributes here, not much. Now the next contestant that contributes here is a bit unorthodox, but I sincerely tell you guys, hear me out. House cats. I know, very unorthodox. However, house cats are some of the most devastating predators out there, so they must be doing something right. And what am I adding from house cats? As you can see, I'm adding quite a bit. First thing is greater reflexes. So I should clarify something. Reflexes and reaction are two different things. Reflexes are how quickly an animal registers something is happening. So let's say a ball is thrown at you. How quickly your brain figures out the fact that a ball is coming towards you is your reflex, and how quickly you dodge or put the ball away from you is called reaction. So our crocodile won't have the reaction time of a house cat because it's much bigger than it, but it will have the reflexes, so it can register something happening very quickly and start reacting to it. Now, another thing I wanted to add was the fast twitch fibers, not the muscles, but the fast twitch fibers. Why? Because the main reason why cats are so agile is the fast twitch fibers. So in muscle fibers, there are like two types of fibers. One is the fast twitch muscles, one is the slow twitch muscles. Now, this introduction of feline DNA will essentially increase the amount of fast twitch fibers in this animal's muscle groups. It will be in all major muscle groups, making our creature a bit more agile. Now, I must clarify something. Our creature is nowhere close as agile as a house cat because of the sheer size. Okay, there is no beating around the bush there. But it is way more agile than a crocodile of that size. So while it cannot run very quickly like a galloping crocodile, it cannot do that. What it can do is turn in place very quickly. Guys who have played Path of Titans or anything, they will know what turn in place means. It's like standing in one place and turning around to face your enemy all the times. So that's one thing we are adding. Other things we are adding is night vision already, that is enhancing the Deinosuchus's night vision even further. So cone cells will be much more. Another thing we are adding is whiskers. Now, whiskers and the pressure sensors in the Deinosuchus's snout, they are very similar organisms. Sorry, not organisms, they're very similar organs, but for different environments. So the Deinosuchus's or pressure sensors were more adapted for water-based detection, whereas whiskers are more adapted for air-based, like changes in air pressure detection, mainly that. One thing people don't know is that cats have whiskers all over their body, not just on their face, all over their body. And when we integrate this DNA with this crocodilian DNA, the whiskers will actually be all over the body and in the form of pressure sensors. So with these pressure sensors, our crocodile or alligator, Deinosuchus thing, it can detect changes in not only in water pressure, it can also detect changes in air pressure, which might not be much useful in this fight because as far as I know, Indom 2.0 doesn't really camouflage, so it can detect anyways, but still, quick movements will be registered very quickly, especially in the water. And finally is predatory instinct. Now, house cats are some vicious predators. Like, they are some of the few predators that kill things even when they don't really need to. They're pretty vicious, and this will come into picture when you see another animal being mixed with it. I will discuss this personality aspect in the end a bit more, how this affects. But let's move on to the next creature. Now, like I said, already our creature is pretty busted, so anything that attacks from the front will absolutely get chewed up by those massive Deinosuchus jaws, which are now further enhanced in terms of size and strength due to the introduction of Ichthyotitan DNA. And even from the tail side, if anything is coming there, the tail's sheer weight and swinging force would be knocking things out. So in order to defend this thing, we will also introduce the flexibility of the spine from the cat. The cats have very flexible spine, so already the crocodile had a flexible spine. This will further enhance it and allow our crocodile to turn much quicker and bend itself much quicker. It will help it essentially defend the sides of it, the only current vulnerable place, though we will see how vulnerable it really is in a bit. The next creature is electric eel that I'm adding, and it's pretty obvious why I am adding it. So it will have electric shock generation organs all over the body. Mainly the high concentrations of it will be along the sides, the more vulnerable sides, and the tail. That's where the main thing will be. On the head there are, but there aren't that many of them. But on the sides and the tail, it's a bit more in that regards. So that is gonna generate electric shock to anything that touches it when it is on land. So because we know that air is not a great conductor of electricity, so if you walk by it, maybe you won't get shocked, but if you touch it from the sides or anywhere really, you will get shocked. However, when this thing is in the water, this thing can shock things that are swimming close to it. not only touching it, but even close to it. So if anything is trying to swim close in a very quick speed and get away, I'm looking at you, Vex. Yeah, that thing is gonna get shocked pretty badly. Now, the other things that this electric eel contributes aren't that important. It's mainly an electroreceptor, which is again a water-based sense. It lets things detect faraway electric currents, similar to how sharks do it and manta rays do it and stuff like that. And it also introduces a thin layer of fatty insulation so that this creature generating shock doesn't shock itself, which will be a rather shocking revelation. Okay, I will stop that. And now we are to our final creature, which is Orca. Now, what does the Orca contribute here? Orcas, first of all, the unique contribution from Orca is intelligence. This thing is smart. It will have the brain power of an Orca. It is smart and it is somewhat social. But in this fight, it's a 1v1, so social doesn't count. But it is smart, problem solver, can lay different type of traps, and when combined with the predatory instinct of a house cat, this thing is a real menace. Now, other things that orcas contribute, I will go over quickly, is the tail muscle enhancement. Already powerful tail gets even more power from the strong tail of the orca, making this thing even faster in the water, and an insulating layer of fat. Now, already the crocodile had some fat storage. With the introduction of this fat layer, the thin insulation layer that the electric eel provided will be really thick, so the high voltages generated from this creature won't have any chance of shocking itself, but shocking anything that touches it or even dares to swim nearby. Now, let's move on to a few augmented features which don't really do much. It is the aesthetic elements. So this creature has some very specific spines, and these spines are purely aesthetics. They don't provide any protective value. These are basically modified fins, so the electric eel fin is heavily modified, and these don't even connect to any important blood vessels or bones or something like that. They have a separate organ. So since this creature lives mainly in the ocean, it eats a lot of fish which has a lot of phosphorus in it, and that phosphorus is deposited into that particular organ, which creates a bioluminescence. And now this bioluminescence is primarily used for dominance displays and mating ritual. It's basically doing this. If this thing is glowing, that's this, doing this Chad face. So males have bright blue glow and females have bright pink. Now, this animal is not fast on land by any means. It is pretty agile. It can turn in place pretty quickly, and the way it fights is mainly by biting. The shocking thing is a bit more of a last resort. The main thing it does is, if something is coming towards it, it will face that thing, bite it. If it is smaller than the crocodile itself, it will crunch this in half with its powerful jaws. And if it is coming from behind, it will smack it with the tail and shock it. That's the main thing. It is like very powerful shock because this is a very big creature, like a pretty small 6-foot long electric eel can produce a current of somewhere around 600 volts. So this creature is massive compared to that. So it can produce a pretty powerful electric shock. Now, next up, I want to discuss a bit about personality. Since I added both house cat DNA and the orca DNA, this thing is not only smart but somewhat sadistic. This thing likes killing. This thing is smart enough to lay traps, bait out attacks. Already crocodiles are smart enough to bait attacks. They put bait on their head when nesting birds come in and they eat them. But this thing is also smart enough to do baiting out for attacks, and it's sadistic. It will strategize and do all the tricks in the book to kill, because not only does it want to kill for food, it likes to kill. With all of that out of the way, it's time I reveal my creature. Introducing Makarasuchus Zillaspinus. the Godzilla-spined Makar crocodile, not to be confused with the mugger crocodile. Makara is a mythological beast from the Hindu mythology, and it is the mount of the goddess of river Ganges. So that is where I got the inspiration. As you can see, this creature looks very similar to my hybrid over here, and the length is 82 feet 25 meters. Now I should point out, due to indeterminate growth, in theory this thing could grow further, but no such reports have yet been found anywhere. So this thing, that's the maximum limit we think is. It's kind of like saltwater crocodiles. We don't know how big the actual biggest one is. Weight is 56,000 kilograms. I avoided using the ton and tons thing. So yeah, that's how much it weighs. Now, how will it fight the Indominus Rex on land? So as you can see, I drawn a diagram of this thing being on land. As you can see, it's pretty much bigger than the Indominus 2.0. And as you can see, this thing doesn't have a blind spot. This thing with its flexible spine can turn its head. This is the attack range of its head. And as you can see, it can turn its head pretty quickly. And once the Indominus gets grabbed by this thing, it will end up like this. It will just be grabbed, dragged in the water, drowned, and ripped into pieces. There's just no way. Also shaken to death. This thing bites and shakes like a crocodile. So yeah, that's pretty bad. You can see how flexible crocodiles can get. So it can get pretty further their sides. And obviously the tail. Anything attacks from behind or sides, this thing can just swing its tail to touch them. All it needs is to touch the Indom 2.0 with its tail to give it a nasty, nasty shock. Now granted, it can also shock from the sides and the head, but the more nasty shocks come from the tail. And once the shock, if the shock directly doesn't kill Indom 2.0, it will render it either unconscious, knocked out, or dazed for long enough for our creature to just turn around, bite the Indom, and shake it to death. So I don't really see much Indom can do here, unless an Indom is using a massive metal spike, climbing on a very high spot, jumping on this thing, and in that case the Indom will die from the fall damage as well, so that doesn't work. Even if the Indom is carrying a metal spike, it cannot carry a metal spike longer than itself. It will still be very much in the zone of attack of this creature if it wants to stab anywhere valuable, anywhere important. It will still be there. And if it is trying to stab through the osteoderms, even something as powerful as Indom 2.0 will need a very good running head start to do that, at which point the crocodile can just turn around and completely reposition itself due to its more, agile turning around speed. It cannot move completely out of the way, but turn itself into a more favorable position where the Indom misses its shot. So there is the fight with Indom. Now I should discuss a bit more about my bluff, you can say, or maybe not bluff, about how it can kill bigger things. So mainly I wanted to challenge the bloop made by Goji Center, and very recently they made a bio-accurate El Gran Maha. So I want my creature to challenge both of them. Now how this thing will fight both of these creatures is kinda similar to this, though it's not exactly accurate. Let's be honest, the sizes are different. Like bloop is a bit more chunky than my creature. My creature is not that big. It is 82 feet. I feel bloop is a bit longer and thicker, but that shouldn't be a problem because already our creature is gonna be massively faster than bloop and El Gran Maha. It can bite them with deadly accuracy. Neither of them have much of a defense. At least bloop doesn't. It is an amphibian, so it can bite and rip out chunks of flesh from its body and get away from it very quickly. And if bloop decides to chase after it, all it needs to do is use one of its tail shocks to disorient bloop, or if the bloop somehow grabs it, it just needs to shock the bloop to death. it has that much shock. And same goes for El Gran Maha. However, I feel since this creature is intelligent enough, it will get past the slime of El Gran Maha. By the way, if you haven't seen the El Gran Maha video in Goji Center's channel, go check it out. It's a good video, man. So that's what it will do. It will shock the El Gran Maha most often and swim around it, not letting that thing catch up to this more agile predator. So let me know what you guys think. Oh, I almost forgot. Vex, you are too small for this fight. So even if you are coming to the Bay of Bengal, just know this thing lives there. This is where it originated because I live close to Bay of Bengal. And so yeah, good luck fighting this thing, my man. Goji guy. And the Goji Center, if you are watching this, I am very glad that you took the time to watch this, and I'm very glad you organized a hybrid wars. Thank you so much.